guests tonight. We are lucky as always to have one of the co-producers of the show, and I have a story to tell you about her as well.
Yeah.
That look on her face right now, that's the look that says my friends are writers. Lauren lives on one of those corners in Oakland where people just dump shit. Everybody from Oakland, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
It looks like an eviction threw up on its way out, and that's usually what it is. Except, Lauren's corner is different. It's never the usual thing. It's always something that indicates that a very specific breakup has taken place. So like, it's a couple's entire collection of books on trying out polyamory. So one day, Lauren went out there, and she found a human rib cage. And being an enterprising young witch, she wasn't going to pass that up, so she took it home.
Nice.
And the next day there was a femur. And the next day there was just a bag of metatarsals. And the day after that there was a spine, disconnected but strong, so she didn't have to pick it up from all over the street. So little by little, she put together a human skeleton in her living room. And little by little, she started to look at it like it was a friend. And little by little, she thought, if this thing had a jawbone, it would speak. So the day that she found the skull, she went back in the house. She put the head on the skeleton. And the skeleton stretched as though it had been a long time and sort of adjusted here and there, because you can't put somebody else's bones together for them. And the skeleton looked at Lauren and said, "Does it get any better?" And she said, "No, but I have alcohol." The method of Lauren Parker's death will be, she will be utterly loved to death.
It's true.
Folk of Cliterary Salon, I give you Lauren Parker.
Thank you. Okay, I don't know how this is going to go, so. Back that, I make the next one. Great, thank you. Hi, everybody.
She's showing off how much taller she is than me.
We're good now. Thank you so much. Hi. I'm having a good night. Yeah. Thank you.
I like everything about you.
For those curious, the carpet does match the drapes. That's going to be the high point. This is going to be really fast. So everybody strap in. This is called the Gorgon. Just make me ugly, she says, gasping through the kind of sobs that crash through the body, oceanic, as wide as they are deep. I don't want this to ever happen again. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about how she's one of the unlucky ones who couldn't get away in time. I don't want to change her, to make her something harsh. But she's changing in front of me already. Her eyes are greener, her hands chapped from wiping tears. Her hair matted so the wind hisses through it. I give her what she wants. Her hair so long it took hours to braid that I spun around my palm so many times, now a fistful of copperheads. Wild, dancing. They won't even let me near her. I make her skin as thick as armor and as rough as gator hide, to ward off the fingers that catch her unaware, to ward off my fingers. I cut grooves into her cheeks so that her tears have a riverbed. She moves differently, swaying, unsteady. The bottoms of her feet slide across the ground. I make her frightening. A glance would turn you perfectly still, stony. But I also give her wings, great divine wings that burst from her shoulders, burst from the skin I used to touch, shade the neck I used to kiss, the down feathers as soft as fingertips. I give her wings so she can never go near the ocean again. So she can fly away from danger, protect herself, as if she could protect herself. I make her more, too much. The greater the presence, the greater the menace. Together we make a beast out of her, a myth. I try to love her anyway. I run my fingertips over her skin, trying to heal and undo the trespasses, feeling every hard scale, set into her body like gemstones. She glows under my touch where she used to flush in excitement. She now gleams like she's being polished. I try to remind her how to love her body. I try to conquer her fear for her, try to take it away and replace it with my fingers, my mouth, the heat of my body. I want to warm her, cold to the touch. I want her to curl up on me and have her take the warmth there. When she comes, I scan her face, hoping to see a shadow of her former self, to see if she's still there. I cannot look into her eyes. I cannot see her in them. People shatter when they see her and they don't feel any sympathy. She becomes the warning, the omen of transgressions possible in the dark, characters in the stories of heroes. The bones that remain human poke out of the skin like she's been swallowed, misshapening the snake that conquered her, a meal that will last months. My father visits maidens as a swan, a bull, as slippery rain, and I think there cannot be that much gratification in it. I ask him about the sea god, the storm that washed my love away, and my father shrugs. He does as he does. His voice is dismissive as distant thunder. He doesn't want to get involved. This is the same man who swallowed my mother whole out of fear of challenge, of confrontation. I feel the darkness creeping in, of being back in his body, back in his skull, trying to dig my way out of his apathy. I do not go down to visit my uncle. It is not easy to remove the head of a living, breathing reptile, of something that can live so much longer and with so much more instinct than a human. It's hard to remove the head of something that has to survive. It takes Perseus more than one blow. His blade is too blunt, the edge glancing off of her skin. Glowing emerald from exertion. He cuts her wings first, separating the joint from the tissue, feeling the snap and uprooting the meat as he throws her right wing into the raging sea. She tumbles down several feet, struggles to not hit the water, screaming, hissing, her mouth red with blood. The head takes more effort, 3 chops to the back, and he finally snaps to the scales. He stabs the tip, using every muscle he has, every muscle he can, to kill her. The steel severs her spine, and the head separates. He needs a paring knife to liberate the skin from the skull. When my brother hands me the head of Medusa, I hold it to my chest. Her hair, once crackling with life, now limp, flesh already beginning to peel from the vertebrae and rattle like ripe fruit from a pit. He crows of his prize fairly won. He doesn't understand why I care. He considers it a gift. I press her lips to mine to remember. I spend 10 days carefully pulling each curved rib, every spurred bone, and threading them to my shield. I have to uncarve the fortress I helped build, to pry open her jaw, unhinging it, and sticking wires to the parts of her that still seem human, so she's always with me. Her teeth nick my skin, and the poison numbs my fingers, my wrists swell. I sew on. I feel closest to them, mortals, when I work with my hands. She remains the thing I crafted, the thing I made and allowed to be made. Her eyes never die, and she protects me where I could not protect her. I wear her because I believe her, because I didn't save her, because making her change seemed like the easiest accommodation to expect. I'm still a hero's goddess after all. Everything is a challenge, a prize to be won or lost. On sleepless nights, I scream at her exposed jawline, the meat worn away with time, the scales so deep they cut into the bone, creating a lush patina on the relics of my lover, and I wish she had looked at him. I have so many words, so many things she should have done, and she cannot shout back at me. I wish it had been her returning the heads of Perseus, Poseidon, and all the others, giving their heads to me like sacrifices, trophies I could line my temple with, their mouths slack and eyes destroyed by crows. Perseus laughs at my tribute. You want to make them pay, but to not be a debt collector. This from a man who couldn't look a woman in the eye. Thank you.
Escort her off stage that she has those antlers and she cannot go the way us mortals go. She must go by her own path. We have one more performer for you before we break for intermission. Is everybody ready for one more? Fantastic. We have another one of our co-producers performing for you tonight. We're going to be joined by Lewis Evans. But of course, before I let anybody go on stage tonight, I have to tell you a story about them. So here's my story about Lewis. Right after I met Lewis, he was walking down the street in San Francisco and he found an abandoned diary. It was obviously out of somebody's backpack or a purse or something that had been stolen, and it had been discarded because it was of no worth, at least in a resale sense. So Lewis, being the person that he is, immediately dedicated himself to the search for the diary's owner. And he wanted to know who it might belong to, but he also didn't want to violate their privacy by reading too much of it. So he just skimmed it, looking for identifying information. And the more he read, the more he realized that the person who wrote this book had experiences that no person he knew ever had. There were stories in there from what happens after you die. There were stories from the other side of the light, from the other side of the darkness. But Lewis did not give up, because Lewis is not the kind of person who gives up. So he found them anyway. He found them wandering as a ghost in San Francisco, encouraging people off the bridge, encouraging people on to BART when they've had too much to drink, encouraging people to keep going when they otherwise might have stopped. Lewis found this ghost, and he held the diary in his hands. And he said, "Listen, I don't know if you still want this. I'm not sure if it means anything to you now that you don't have a body." And the ghost said, "It's the only thing that means anything now that I don't have a body." The method of Lewis Evans' death will be, he will argue himself out of existence. So from Cliterary Salon, I give you Lewis Evans.
That story actually happened to me. Friends, tonight I'll be reading you a poem called The Nubbin. It might sound a little similar to a poem you're familiar with, Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, and there's an interesting story behind that. You see, Edgar Allan Poe had a sister, and actually she was the poetic genius. Her work was super edgy. Edgar just ripped off her poems, bowdlerized them, slapped his name on them, and got them published. Very little of her work survives, her original work, but The Nubbin was recently rediscovered in an attic in Baltimore, and I'd like to share it with you today. Well, actually, for all of you in the audience who might be writing term papers or book reports, I feel obliged to say that that's not true. I did have a sister, her name was Rowena, but as far as we know, his compositions were original. But that story sure seemed plausible because, let's be honest, that shit happens all of the time. An extremely abbreviated list of women who received little or no credit for work stolen by their male colleagues and/or relatives would include, in no particular order, Ada Lovelace, inventor of the computer; Colette, Nobel Prize nominated French author; Rosalind Franklin, discoverer of DNA; Alice Guy, cinema pioneer; Lise Meitner, discoverer of nuclear fission; Sister Rosetta Tharpe, inventor of rock and roll; Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, author of Frankenstein; Millicent Patrick, creator of The Creature from the Black Lagoon, which I based my first Cliterary Salon story on, by the way. Nettie Stevens, discoverer of sex chromosomes; Dr. Chen Xiong Wu, theoretical physicist; Margaret Keane, painter; Jocelyn Bell Burnell, discoverer of pulsars; Trotula of Salerno, the first gynecologist; Elizabeth McGee, inventor of the board game Monopoly; Esther Lederberg, microbiologist; Tabitha Babbitt, inventor of the circular saw; Anna Arnold Hedgeman, organizer of the March on Washington; Hedy Lamarr, inventor of Wi-Fi, and countless others. And those are just the names we know about. And actually, Meg Elison recommended most of those names to me. Remaining names come from lists that were compiled by primarily female journalists, including Jessica Samikow, Amanda Ferris, Lara Rutherford Morrison, and Rachel Epstein. Also some dudes who I'm just gonna skip. This preamble exists because of thoughtful guidance of the Cliterary Salon co-producers, including Meg, Lauren, and Maggie. And the verse that follows sounds as good as it does, only due to the talented and poetical editing of Katie Morton. And finally, actually, Poe borrowed the metrical scheme for The Raven from Elizabeth Barrett Browning. So, with that extremely upbeat message, let's get to the poem. Just one thing before we begin. The refrain of this poem is vibrator. And after about stanza 8 or so, it comes in at the end of every stanza. Please do say it along with me if the spirit moves.
Give us a cue.
I'll make it.
It'll look suggestive.
I'll look like a vibrator's about to happen. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I fingered, weak and weary, perusing a quaint and curious volume of forgotten porn, while I nodded, barely fapping, suddenly there came a tapping and a bizzing, beeping, prapping, quite like a phone outside my door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, with an angry bird's high score. Only this and nothing more. I remember now I'm sober. It was in the damp October, and my row of gothy chokers cast their shadows on the floor. Eagerly I wished for more, and vainly had I sought to fornicate from late to early, fingering my hurly-burly. Now my fingers crooked, curly, scrabbled, scratched, and left me sore. Sans orgasm quested for. And the silken, sad, uncertain squelching of my natural merkin bored me, lured me to outlandish pleasures never sought before. So then, spurred on by my thirstin, stood I by the door, outburstin. "'Tis some visitor might burst in through my chamber door. My ever-naughty chamber door, come thou in and get some more." My noise grew wetter, hesitation I'd regret. "Sir," or I said I, or "Madam, your good giving gameness I implore, for the fact is I was fapping, merely feigning to be napping, when so gently you came tapping at my chamber door. So I hope you'll come inside." Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into that darkness staring, long I stood there wondering, wearing neither robe nor fancy nightie. I stood there at the open door. But the silence wasn't. That was one of Katie's lines, by the way, so make a noise. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and not a word was then spoken as I fingered idly more. I twiddled yawning, and the echoes murmured back of squelch and snore, only these and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, my thirst still higher, yearning, burning. Soon again I heard a tapping somewhat louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Yet no satisfaction's coming. 'Tis my luck, I'm sure, therefore. 'Tis the wind and nothing more." Open here I flung the window, came my noble guest within, though I knew it not from present days, nor neither ancient days of yore. Stately was this unknown nubbin, shapely too, and made for lovin'. All the quiver it was inching briskly across the floor. Slickly it came squirming over across the shining floor. Nothing seemed to please it more. Then this stately nib beguiles my thirsty fancy into smiles, with its sensual writhing dance, and the slender hood it wore. O nub of stature short and meaty, I tender thou this sweet entreaty, O throbbing, squirming, lovin', nubbin, twerking so upon the floor. Tell me how I may best please you, slake your thirst and give you more. Quoth the nubbin, "Vibrator." So we got it, great. Much I more by hearing unmouthed mouthfuls speak so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. I knew a vibe is felt twixt persons, and a nail torn leaves you cursin', but an is quite uncertain. Conjuncted, what in heaven's for? What's this thing named vibrator? Whither, wherefore, vibrator? Hush up now, you rowdy throng, burst not into learned song, fear you not that before long this buzzing pathway I'd explore. This loving, buzzing, vibing pathway I would delve, plumb, and explore. For though innocency breeding ignorance did fill my being, still I couldn't help but feeling aroused and inflamed, dare not ignore that siren song, sung Vibrator! Great. And the nubbin coming closer, hood withdrawn and showing more. Oh, this nubbin spoke so softly. My heart's beating is heard only this and one thing more, the single word of vibrator. What mean you, nub, by obscure saying? Are you for real or merely playing? Tell me the truth, why movest thou to me, O nubbin, rumbling swiftly across the floor? Quoth the nubbin, "Vibrator!" That's quite enough, come no closer, spake I, and it moved no more. As the nub obeyed my warning, between us a trust was forming, a wordless trust, a sweet rapport. So then I spoke to it more. "Very well, come hither, nubbin, show me our great mutual love, and with thy lovely pleats and more, I wanted all its love galore." Quoth the nubbin, "Vibrator!" "Come," I said, lust run amok, "come thou and just fuck me up. Come thou, make me not implore." Ever faithful to my yearnings came the nubbin, passions burning, red and flushed from skin to core. Yet as the nubbin came much nearer, I saw its hoodless form much clearer still the tool it bore. "What's this witchy wand you're bearing?" Quoth the nubbin, "Vibrator!" Raised it then the wand up high, so that its form I might espy. Shaped it was like rod or thigh, crowned as if with knob of door. Just so it seemed, this vibrator. Then the nubbin touched a button, and oh so lively it was jumping, and a buzzing, beeping, bumping issued forth none could ignore. Such buzzing, beeping, bumping, jumping from the nubbins. Vibrator! Then my My interest, keenly whetted, spurred me on with, I must explore, must peruse the abstruse nature of the thing it called vibrator. The nub gave it to my keeping, and with trial and some beeping, I counted settings, 5, 10, and more. Such a wondrous gift you've brought me, which we might conjoined explore. The nubbin nodded. Vibrator. Gently I pressed it to myself. Suddenly I felt such wealth of warm sensation, skin to core, from nape of neck to scalp to floor. I let it run, scalp, shoulders, more. My sole of foot craved vibrator. Though this practice was most pleasing, the nubbin needed even more. Twixt my legs it now was nestled as the wand, and as the wand I closer bore, gleeful quoth it, vibrator. Ooh, I cooed. Too stately humming. I said, to sounds of thrumming. Oh, quoth I when buzz increased. Garg! That's also Katie. I said when pleasure ceased. The hurts that issued from Hitachi made me blush from nose to crotchy. My core, I quivered, quaked, and kicked for more. Wand near nubbin, circling gentle, till as if quite accidental, I came and came and came some more. Then nub rumbled oracular, now you have felt vibrator. And that nubbin, ever meaty, lives between my thighs so sweetly, abroad it need not travel questing wide for pleasure anymore. For when that nubbin's feeling needy, or indeed is merely greedy, its pleasure thirst can be fed easy with the mighty vibrator. And my sadly futile fapping, squelching, thumbling, grinding, scratching, troubles my dim and private chambers not once, no never more, now that I have felt vibrator. Thank you all for collaborating.
This evening, we are graced with the presence of poet Thea Matthews. As with everyone else, I would like to tell you a story about Thea Matthews. I had the great luck to perform with Thea previously at an event at the Octopus Literary Salon in Oakland. Does anybody know the Octopus? Thea did something that I'd never seen a poet do before, and at the time I didn't really know how to interpret it. She began to read one of her poems, she began to recite one of her poems, and she stopped herself about 4 lines in, and she said, no, not this piece, not tonight. And that was it. She didn't give anybody a chance to appeal her decision. She didn't poll the room. She didn't put up a question on Twitter to see who approved of which. She just moved on. She decided that she knew her work and she knew herself, and the rest of us could fucking wait. In that moment, while we were waiting, the room began to fill with water. Oakland's on the sea, Oakland is low-lying, and all of us tried not to be too alarmed because we've all seen floods before. Some of us tasted the water to see if it was sweet or see if it was salt, and maybe it was seawater, but I'd never tasted anything like it before or since. All the tables in the salon turned into octopi. All the chairs in the salon turned into octopi. All the people in the salon turned into octopi. Thea kept going. She just kept telling her poems. She didn't give a shit. There came a point when the room was full to the ceiling. None of us could breathe, none of us could move, and only some of us could swim. And still, she did not stop. That is the gift of a poet. The waters may rise, and they will continue to speak. The method of Thea Matthews' death will be, she's going to defend a group of human children in the eventual robot uprising. They will be safe, but Thea will be lost. Ladies and gentle thems, Thea Matthews.
Hello everyone, my name is Thea Matthews. We the Apollyon tears of slaying blood, a passionate corporeal procession, streamlined down the center of a major highway. The demonstrations have begun. We rise, barefoot, sprawl our legs, stretch our hips, stitch our paths. Our power obstructs the confines of a power upholding heteronormativity. Dishonor the women, deny trans rights, steal land, steal bodies, blame and laugh at victims, ensure perpetrators high societal jobs. We conquer the orthodox. Our raised fists, shouts through megaphones, denounce the glossy sheep, the featured tan lines, and the humans pretending to be AI. Our blood douses the land. New crusts for the core, we block presidential alerts. We moan in motion, even in the millennia after Stonewall. The ocean floor spreads. Continents question their boundaries. On new land, water either rises or recedes. We magnetic, genderless, colorful, hyacinth, shimmering the communication between sun and moon. No one can tell us how to exist. Our potent fragrance summons transatlantic travels. We the most fragrant in spring. I have some poems, some flowers, if you will, for you. I bring you flowers. That was hyacinth. I have columbines, indigo, jasmine. You might need a wave. I have a couple extras, but if you're like, ass out, tell me. Okay.
Keep going.
All right, poetry. All right. I take her back, ripped his tongue out of her mouth, torn bed sheets, yanked the curtains down, stomped on his face until he bled no more. Glass ceilings fracture a tin man's roof. A heart not found on the road, but in the steps of me walking away from the machines, from artificial vegetation, from a world of skyscrapers built on wet sand. The pale skin called her savage, too feral to ever take the elevator up. Deem her the ugliest tar cement has ever seen. I take her back. Untie nooses, uncuff black hands, burn the robes of the Ku Klux Klan, shatter Goldilocks porcelain faces, disembody the badge. Her curves alone obliterate the power of blockbusters, billboards, flimsy towers, celebrating another life lost to first world starvation. Without her, no one would know the freedom crying gives. The perennial sorrow, she is the daughter of my columbines, blood and earth bound together. She yawns her limbs to the five corners. When she walks, mourning doves emulate owls. Hawks screech their caw as they glide above black plumage. Butterflies flutter to the rhythm of a newborn heartbeat. Coyotes pass the bridge without jumping. Each night, glistening black waters entice. Ghosts linger, stare at the bodies determined to jump. The San Francisco Bay becomes a puddle. I remember, and I take her back, comb her natural hair, scrape all of him off her skin, warm her blood with my endless love. This one will not jump again. No pressure to clap each time, I guess. Yeah. Thank you.
No pressure, we just want to.
Okay.
You're right.
Thank you. Open. Open. I baptize you. In the wild blue, false gold, the pliable weed-like flowers. Your body saturated in the granules of lapis lazuli. Sprout from tears, copulating cash crops, edible gold and blue denim. Armies of unknown rebels, too black to ever be burned at the stake, gamble in the rings of your eyes. You are to be cherished. Your curls are yours, not for porcelain heads or zookeeper fingers. Your skin cannot be worn by sunspots and credit cards. Your lips are the softest, chewable rims sucking the seeds of terracotta sunsets. And your calloused feet already know the direction Earth will move to shatter faulty skyscrapers. Perplex magnetism, rip the renewal from urban on red soil. Since Jasmine thinks. When drones surveil from a scant star-shuddering sky, military tests new aircraft. Burgundy clouds haunt city lights. Memories of you unfurl in my bedroom. I lay there, naked, under the covers, perspiring the desires to have your lips touch mine. Your fingers and thighs baptize me. Your long hair be the petals of my bliss. I still taste jasmine. On hot days, you'd place the fresh front porch flower in our cooled waters. Our tongues in the thrum of double Dutch played for hours. Our legs enveloped, we swung under a waxing moon. I remember, as I listened to my own heart dance with a fervent candle wick, as my hands explore the mountains and canyons of my body, as I open, head leans back, thighs further widen, the sweat on my pelvis slides my arm closer, and I come, gush, gasp, gulp for more jasmine water. All right. I'll close with this, guys. Y'all, sorry, ooh, I caught myself. Thank you, my apologies. We set aflame that raptorial yearning to taste butter on tongue, lick gloss from lips, rub honey between fingers. Grandmother would say, we high femmes on our best days, when smooth handkerchiefs nuzzle back pockets, when Sunday dresses silhouette the galaxies of our bodies, when puckered up tangerine lips and black stilettos stain no one. We a treasure among sequin stars, rhinestone laughter. We fully open when planted in full sun, an indistinguishable, too good to be true panorama on land. We exceed the price of elephant tusk. We, the walking sun, the flow of Oshun, fresh waters bow as we cross the continent with oranges and cinnamon. We boil the bones of who stole our mothers. Legends define myths. We repackage, redesign, reinvent the aesthetics, feminine and masculine. We alchemize the lies told, braid our little girls' hair, and stitch the city's gunshot wounds with gold. Thank you.
So the next performer tonight is me. The good news is, since I'm emceeing tonight, I'm taking my privilege and I'm not telling you a goddamn thing about me. Except
You
that
are immortal.
You don't die.
I will in fact die.
Oh.
I will die by drink. Tip your bartender, folks.
Yeah, you'll die by drinking like 8,000 years.
I didn't say when. You never ask a lady how old she is.
Ageless.
This story is called Guessing Game. Nobody likes it when you're right. Not the guess your age guy, not the guess your weight guy, and certainly not me. And that first guy, well, he's never right, because people are more likely to play along if he guesses they're 10 years younger than they are. He loses bullshit 8-cent prizes made in China, and he keeps taking $1 from every person in his line. The weight guy is right more often. He can get away with it because the skinny people are proud of themselves, and the fat people are a source of entertainment, no matter what he says. He's right, they're wrong, they're still fat. But then they come around to me, and I am never wrong. Sometimes they think, I can do some good here. Sometimes I say lung cancer, and the person I'm talking to says, look, wait. If I say liver failure, it goes the same way. The one guy I told it would be a plane crash said he would never fly again, but I don't know if he stuck by it. I also don't know if maybe a plane crashed into his house while he was asleep. What about the ones I tell it'll be a car accident? What in the hell are they supposed to do? When Dad did it, he told me that people will try to take comfort in heart failure and knowing how the end will come. It's the one thing in life you can count on, he'd say. And now you'll know its name when it shows up. Isn't that the definition of comfort? Familiarity? Dad didn't do it at the carnival. Dad had a real job. He'd do it for friends and family. He'd do it for a year before it happened, or 20. He was right about everybody, including himself, pancreatic cancer. After he was gone, I saw that he was right about his sister, his best friend, our dog. That's how I know I'm never wrong. I don't know how we count it as fun, us guessers. It isn't a game. There's no clown to shoot at with a water pistol, and there's no ring to toss. The prizes are shitty, and the truth is nobody's friend. And tonight smells like candy corn and puke, and this town is like every other. Patty, 48, 287 pounds, will die of complications from an amputated foot. She leaves with her face in a twist and goes straight to the cotton candy man. I never know when, but I suspect for her that it'll be soon. Bill, 36, 215 pounds, will die in an industrial accident involving molten metal. His face when I say that to him. Jesus. Alex, 23, 117 pounds, will die of an autoimmune disorder. Does not seem surprised. Gus, 14, 98 pounds, will drown. God, I hate it when kids walk in here. On and on, every night, their dazed faces all blurring into one. Except the carnival is heading south as the summer ends. We're chasing the heat and barreling toward our stopping point in Galveston. I'm working on a cruise ship when we get there. The age guy changed his accent to sound southern just as soon as we hit the Mason-Dixon line. The wait guy is gearing up for southern women who don't ever want to play at all, and most certainly don't want to hear the truth when they're made to. And I can't do accents and I can't lie. So the last few weeks on the road have been real weird for me. Ever since Tulsa, I'm stuck. Shirley, 56, 186 pounds, will die of thirst. Caden, 21, 125 pounds, will die of thirst. Evan, 28, 146 pounds, will die of thirst. My line dries up right away. They think I'm being an asshole. I can feel sweat collecting in the small of my back and rolling down. The night is way too warm. My mouth feels sticky like cotton candy. Oklahoma City, and it's midnight, and still over 90 degrees. Lorna, 39, 159 pounds, thirst. Jake, 47, 180 pounds, thirst. Bobby, 5, 41 pounds, thirst. This crowd is drunker and thinks I'm joking. They drink more, they suggest I drink more. I am beginning to think we should drink all there is, while we still can. Galveston is where I figure it out. I haven't kept up with the news while we've been on the road, and when I get it, it's almost too hysterical to figure out. All the papers are saying the same thing. The bill is coming due. We've been putting this off, doing anything about it for years, and now it's too late. I look up at the seagulls on the marina, and I know what they'll all die of. Thirst. I never meet the cruise ship. Some asshole sees me doing my act at our last stop, and he finds me, tells me he's too smart to die of thirst, and he's right. He says he knows what I am. He says I need to come with him, and he says a number that makes up my mind for me. I've been on this ship now for 6 months, and I don't think I'll ever get off it. They have some of the best dew collecting and condensing machines in the world. The ship is comfortable, but the man who brought me here keeps me locked up in my room and visits me once a day. He won't let anyone else in here. He says I'm his surety against the inevitable end. I don't know who else he's holding on this ship. I don't know what I'd do if I could get off at hell. It could even be me who does it. If I had the means, I would. His name is Chris. He's about 45, and I'd say $130 soaking wet. And he's gonna die of a very painful and slow-acting poison. I am never wrong. I gotta tell you, the times we're in are just candy to horror writers. What's everybody afraid of? Shit, check the news. Once upon a time, I'm sure this job was harder. If you'd like to know more about my work, I'm on Twitter at Meg Elison. You can visit me and learn many things about my career at megelison.com. My debut novel is for sale at the merch table back there. It's called The Book of the Unnamed Midwife, and it won the 2014 Philip K. Dick Award. But mostly, right now, this is the thing I'm proudest of in life. So I'm glad you're all here, because this is what I want. All right. Tonight's final performer is going to be the author of Also an Octopus, Maggie Takuta Hall! But of course, before I give up the stage, I have to tell you a story about Maggie. The thing about Maggie, and nobody knows this, and she's going to be super pissed that I'm telling you. Maggie has been invited to almost every reading series in San Francisco and the greater Bay Area. Maggie has a great and terrible power that she brings to each of these events. Once you invite Maggie to your reading series, she will take it over. She is one of our co-producers. She is the winningest author of all time at Shipwreck at the Booksmith. And that's where the trouble begins. You see, once Maggie makes a thing hers, she has to make it all the way hers. It must begin and end with her. I know you've all heard rumors about why Shipwreck is ending. I'm sure you may have bought the story about certain people leaving for New York, or maybe it's just its time, but the truth is, it's Maggie. Maggie is not satisfied until she holds a thing's birth and death in its hands. We who are her co-producers here at the show, we learned our fate long ago. We understand that when she decides the end has come, the end has come. The method of Maggie Takuta Hall's death will be, Maggie will one day be a very old woman. She will be satisfied. She will be beautiful. She will have a body of work that she is completely proud of. She'll be jogging in a park, and she'll be set upon by a group of teenage werewolves. And as they devour her for sustenance, she will be grateful. Ladies and gentlemen, Maggie Takuta Hall!
I really hope that's how it happens.
Because otherwise it's dolphins.
That's a reference to something I wrote, not just a... So I'm going to read you guys something that I wrote especially for you, so you're welcome. I know. So as a Japanese person, I take education very, very seriously. And as a Jew, I feel like it should be done through stories. So that is exactly what I've done for you guys tonight. And so this is a very scientifically accurate retelling of The Lion King. This is all true. More than a season had passed since Shenzi's clan had been gentrified out of the savannah by Mufasa's pride. Their new territory was nutrient-sparse and ugly, but Shenzi was a thrifty matriarch. They made do. Hyenas always do. Was she angry about being kicked out of her ancestral territory by a bunch of roaring morons who spent most of their days sleeping and beating their wives? Yes. Did she resent having to scrabble for odd bits and ends, hares and mice, rather than the marvelously fat marbled meat of wildebeest she had grown up on? Of course. Did the injustice of leading her clan on a successful hunt only to have their quarries stolen by one of the very assholes who displaced them infuriate her? Goddamn right it did. But her anger was neither here nor there. Anger would not keep her clan alive. She was lolling on a particularly hot afternoon beneath a baobab tree when Bonsai and Ed approached. The names are from Disney, so I apologize. That is not my fault. This in and of itself was odd. Male hyenas are smaller and subordinate to their female counterparts and are typically smart enough to exist on the outskirts of their society, being considered equal parts nuisance and danger to the cubs. But apparently, they came bearing an entreaty for a parley from a lion. Shenzi was very confused. Why are you two idiots coming to me with this? Why not Banu or Hasna, my most trusted lieutenants and sisters? Didn't know, Bonsai lied. Said he only wanted to talk to a male, Ed yelled. He let out a long, high giggle, the famous anxiety signal of their kind. Shenzi made a gesture of deep annoyance and then bit at Bonsai and Ed's heels and chased them back to the periphery where they belonged. Her first meeting with Scar did not get off to a promising start. She presented her penis to him so that he could sniff and lick it as a gesture of friendship, as is custom between hyenas. But he only looked at her quizzically, as if she were the one being rude. He remembered that members of the patriarchy always undervalued oral sex. It was one of the many defects of their kind. Scar was underfed with a patchy, mangy mane. He was, like most male lions, pushed to the side by an alpha and unable to exist in a pride with females. Instead, he wandered the savannah alone, or sometimes joined by other lonely males, all skin and bone and strange theories about how masturbation robbed them of their manly essence. I am here with an offer for you, Scar said grandly. Shenzi rolled her eyes. She was starting to regret taking this meeting. My brother, Mufasa, is a total dick. Correct. And I think you should kill him. That's not really an offer, Shenzi said. That's more of a chore. It seems to me like you want me to do the hard work that you're either too scared or too inept to do yourself. I mean, yeah, but also, like, you could totally have your land back. How will you guarantee me this? Because, like, if you kill Mufasa, then when I take control of the pride, I'll order all my bitches to leave you lot alone. You'll have your neighborhood back forever, and I'll have a bunch of ladies finally to touch my weird spiny penis. That's a win. I promise. Shenzi rather thought leaving any female of any species under the leadership of any male was a losing situation, but she also needed to think of her clan, of their old life on the savannah, the many watering holes, the tall grasses, the herds of wildebeest, of the cubs under her care now thin with hunger. Fine, she said. Fine. The assassination went off without a hitch, which of course it did, because Shenzi led her 40 clanswomen to the charge, giggling and whooping as they ran. And much to her surprise, Scar actually kept his word. She and her clan soon found themselves back on the savannah, living in comfort. Without the lions completely dominating the apex predator game, the ecosystem actually reached a kind of equilibrium, with a variety of predators able to coexist, effectively keeping each other's populations in check. So comfortable was she that Shenzi even took a mate, a nice male with spectacle markings around his eyes, who was a real smooth jazz fan named Neil. Because Shenzi had a penis and Neil had a penis, mating was an awkward affair, but this is the way of hyenas. Could you just... Neil did his best to position himself behind Shenzi, and due to the sexual dimorphism of their species, she had to crouch a little to allow this. Sure, but you need to... She tried to angle her penis, which was hollow, like a bucatini noodle. It's like long and skinny. That's true. So that it would be easier for Neil to insert his shorter, thinner, spaghetti noodle-like penis inside of her. If you're still not picturing it, it's like sticking a pencil up a Chinese finger trap. But neither of them can see it. It takes a really long time. Am I in? Neil asked. Again, and Shenzi could only laugh. Luckily, Shenzi received oral from several of her non-biological sisters after their coitus was finally achieved, so the afternoon wasn't completely shot. About 3.5 months later, she gave birth to 3 cubs, one of whom was almost immediately murdered by his siblings, since Shenzi only had 2 teats to feed her 3 babies. And the competition had proven, as it so often does with hyenas, to be deadly. Pride swelled in her chest for her powerful, murderous daughters. Someday, she told them, all of this will be yours. And she motioned to the clan, because her daughters would inherit her rank, which is fucking cool. However, things did not stay perfect for long. Soon Mufasa's long-lost son, Simba, reappeared on the scene. He was just as Scar had been, lonely and mangy and joined sporadically by other lonely, mangy males who referred to themselves as Proud Boys, despite not belonging to a pride and generally being an embarrassment. Simba had inherited his father's broad shoulders, if not his gravitas, where Mufasa's voice had been powerful. Simba sounded more like a rich kid who spent most of his intellectual resources on contriving a way to ditch school for a single day while ruining his best friend's life. Yet somehow, even with this in mind, Simba was able to displace Scar. Defeated, Scar came crawling back to Shenzi, battered and bruised. "Please," he cried, "you must bail me out of this totally foreseeable problem that I created myself by insisting on a long and cruel reign in which I ruled with zero regard for anyone except myself. For some reason, none of the female lions will." "Patriarchs." Shenzi shook her head. "You made a promise," she told him, "and you broke it." "What do you mean?" Scar howled. "I've never been held accountable for my actions before." But that night, Shenzi and her hyena sisters feasted upon the lying lion's flesh. The end.